the male, the male sexual type. From the get-go, let's say that the male contains within itself feminine attributes. In fact, to be male, masculine, is to have more dominant masculine attributes in relation to the feminine ones. Masculinity is the dominance of the feminine within the organism. That is, the dominance of one's nature. To be male is not simply to have a certain biology. It is also to have an attitude. It's a way of engaging the world. It's an essence. It's a way of being. It's a way of perceiving reality. And this attitude evolves alongside the physical attributes to facilitate the male sexual role. That is, a male has to prove himself. Unlike the female that is born with an intrinsic value, reproductive value, the male has to prove his worth in order to pass on his genes. This is why he's more creative, more willful, more authoritarian, more abstract in his thinking. He has to use his imagination to think outside the box. He does not yield to authority easily. That said, it is possible for a female, biological female, to be more masculine than a biological male, particularly in this day and age where sheltering has protected the weaker forms and has managed to propagate everything under the sun. In fact, to reproduce is considered a right these days. So everything is replicated, everything is reproduced, and if it doesn't threaten the system, it is even protected from itself. That is, technologies are used to maintain it in life, to promote it. The laws are enacted to help it participate, to take affirmative action, or take this feminism, and now take this movement, the MRA. All these are methods of trying to change the laws so they can overcome a genetic, natural weakness. The masculine energy is ordering, the disordering. That is, it imposes its will upon reality, tries to arrest it, tries to arrest entropy, tries to control it, to divert it. That's the essence of the masculine spirit from a metaphysical point of view. This is why men are always thrust in authority. That's why God is a masculine entity, especially the monist type of God, rather than a feminine one. But because disordering occurs naturally without any effort, whereas ordering requires effort, the male is really fighting a lost battle. But this is where he proves himself noble and he finds glory. It is in his fight to order the disordering where he becomes a rising star. He proves himself. He shows himself in his essence. He raises himself above the rabble. From my biological perspective, like I said, the male has to prove his worth in order to pass on his genes. That's why the inferior male is expendable, and only the best of the males get to pass on their genes. This is only if the system or man does not step in to change the rules for many other reasons, which I'm not going to get into now, which propagates every man in order to include him within the system, and in so doing propagates weaknesses which are unfit within natural environments, or any environments for that matter, and which require further meddling interventions in order to support them in their existence. So the reason men are so superior is because they have to be by nature. So when boys cry about how men are expendable, how they have to fight wars and such, or how unfair the world is, they're really showing how effete they've become in a system that has fed them the illusion that they have rights, or that life is sacred, all life is sacred, and that all deserve and all this and all deserve that. If we go back to nature, this is not the case. The male has always been expendable. In fact, 1 out of 10 births, perhaps even less, get to pass on their genes. Within species with more social environments, there is the potential of an inferior male to pass on their genes, and this is by playing the nice guy role. That is, by seducing a female with gifts, with his services, in order to gain her sexual favors and hope to pass on his genes underneath the dominant male's nose. But this is an intervention upon more natural environments, and it's an intervention caused by social behavior, which is a sheltering behavior. Therefore, the male has to prove himself to a female, in order to hope to pass on his genes. Unless the system takes away this option from the female, as was done with paternalism, making it possible for every man to pass on his genes, with all the consequences that I mentioned, this sheltering, this increase of effete males, perhaps even genetic mutations increasing to the point where they result in disease and illness.